Child support. Next topic. In Missouri, there's what's called the Form 14, which is a child support chart. It's a complex formula. It's a worksheet. Basically, the way it works in Missouri is it's an income share model. And it looks at the income of the mom, it looks at the income of the dad, and kind of like the IRS tax bracket, right? The more money you make, the higher bracket you go into, the higher presumed child support amount you go into. So it takes both parents' income into account. We were in Illinois last night. A totally different formula in Illinois, where you're just looking at the non-custodial parent's income only. It doesn't really look at the other parent. It doesn't look at the custodial parent's income, which is interesting. It's a totally different concept. But in Missouri, it's an income share model. And what you do on this chart, and by the way, if you want to get a link to one on our webpage, if you go to the child support button, we've got links to the Missouri child support form, and you can play with it. You should really have an attorney go through it with you if you want to get some kind of definitive number. But again, you put the income of the parties in Missouri. Other things go into it, like if there's daycare, the cost of daycare, if there's the health insurance cost. If the party who's paying health insurance for the kids, they get credit for that on the chart. It takes into account other extraordinary costs involving the children. And then there's what's called a visitation credit. So if you're the non-custodial parent, the more visitation time you have, the higher visitation credit you get on that Form 14. But here's what I tell you about this Form 14 in general. A lot of people look at this and they think it's like objective, like a robot could do it. Like you just put numbers in, it just spits a number out. At the end of the day, if you have a good attorney, it's like having a good CPA doing your taxes. They can show you things on that chart that maybe you wouldn't know otherwise. There's different credits you can give. When you get to the visitation credit, judges have a ton of discretion in terms of the credit that they can award. All right, it's terribly confusing, but I mean, visitation credits go from 0 to 50, right? And that makes a huge difference in terms of what the overall child support number is. So I would tell you in a lot of ways it's very subjective. And then even when you get to the idea of income, let me tell you this, which is, do you take just the current income? Do you take a 3-year average of somebody's income? Do you take a 5-year average? What if somebody just got a raise last week? Then what do we do? And at the end of the day, judges have a lot of discretion in terms of what they can do on that chart. And different judges do different things based on the facts. In some cases, when let's say it's somebody who's got kind of a normal W-2 job and they make about the same each year, right? But they get that 3 to 6% raise each year, and they just kind of go up a little bit incrementally, right? So, in those cases, you will see lots of judges taking 3 or 5-year averages, right? In cases though where maybe somebody was making this and they get this pay raise where they've doubled their income, right? Then maybe that average doesn't make sense because now they're making double. What about commissions? Maybe somebody sells cars and one year they made a bunch of money selling cars, but the economy's turned and they can't make the same amount of money the following year. Then what do? And this is where this really comes out in facts. It's a big deal. And in some of our cases, we will do things like bring vocational experts in to talk about that. Like if I had somebody who had a commission-based job, you'd have somebody come in to testify and say, yeah, maybe my client last year made 100-something thousand, but it's not looking that way this year, and here's why. And it's important because judges. We're attorneys. We're attorneys. We probably think we know everything, but we don't know everything, right? We don't know the job market and the way specific intricate fields might work, and very subjective in terms of how this works. Again, other factors that can come into how child support is calculated: payment of health insurance. Pay the health insurance for the kids. You should get credit for that. Visitation credits. Again, the more visitation you have with your kids, in theory, the lower child support you pay. And then daycare on or off the chart is a big issue. A lot of judges will do this child support chart and they'll put daycare on it. The problem with that is what happens when you don't need daycare anymore? The kids they've outgrown daycare, right? Then you got to come back to court and modify it and have it taken off the chart, right? If you're the parent getting child support, you probably want it on the chart, right? Keep paying me for daycare and there's no daycare, right? It's like a windfall. Just keep it coming, keep the check coming. If you're the parent that paid child support, you probably don't want that daycare on the chart because you don't want to have to hire an attorney to try to modify later after the fact. You want a child support number and you want daycare in a separate order, right? We try a lot of cases based on that. Generally speaking, I think the non-custodial parent, I mean, the issue is how you look into that judge. You know, do you look like a trustworthy person who's been paying and contributing, that seems to be operating above board in good faith? A lot of judges will give you the benefit of not taking it off the chart. If you're already thousands behind in child support, and you want it off the chart, a lot of judges not showing a lot of sympathy, right? So, I mean, it depends, you know, depends. Those are big, big issues which can totally change the dynamics of the case. And again, judicial discretion. As long as the judge is using the chart and they're using the chart appropriately, like I said, they can do lots of different things. Take a 3-year average, a 5-year average, or maybe you got that big raise, they just take the last year. They got a lot of discretion, so it makes a big difference. It makes a big difference to your judges. It really does. It makes a big difference what impression you make with that judge. All right, so that's child support in Missouri.